After writing data to a file, the next step is to read data from a file. Very similar to writing data to a file, so let's go ahead and get started. We import the IO class, first thing. Then, this time, instead of a text writer object, we need to create a text reader object. We'll call our text reader object inFile, and then instead of calling the stream writer class, we're going to call the stream reader class with the name of a file. In fact, a full path name to the file. So we'll use the same file we created in the last lesson. So once we've established our file object, and that's inFile, we're ready to begin reading from the file. So we need a variable to store the data that's coming in from the file, so we'll create a string variable line. Then we're going to read from the file. We can just read a line at a time, so we could write line equals infile dot readline. And then we could write out the result. We could do it again, and then write out the result. And keep doing this, but the problem is that we don't know how many lines are in the file. We actually do because we created this file. First, let's run this program. Okay, so we got 2 lines, line 1, line 2. But in general, we're not going to know the size of the files that we're trying to read from. So what we would do instead is put this code into a loop. And the way we do that is we have a while loop that says while infile.peak not equal to -1. Let me explain what peak does. Peak reads the next character without changing the state of the reader or the character source. But what we're using peak for is determine if there's data in the file to read. And as long as there's data in the file to read, it will return a positive number or 0. Doesn't matter what it returns. We're not interested in the value returned from peak unless it's equal to -1. And then when it's equal to -1, that means that the file is out of data. There's no more data to read, and it's time to close the file. So we say while infile.peak not equal to -1, which really means while there's data to read in the file. So while there's data to read in the file, read a line using readline, just like we do on the console, and then write that line back out. That's all we're going to do right now. And then when we're finished, we'll close the file. And so let's run the program. So there, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5. So let's look at another example. And in fact, let's create a file, then read from it in the same program. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a text writer object. We're going to call this file grades.txt. Go ahead and create a text reader object. Same file. Let's create a variable for a grade. And then let's enter 5 grades. Convert to int32, console readline, and then outFile.WriteLine. Let's do 1 grade to a line, the grade. Close the loop, close the file, create an average variable, create a count variable, write the loop to read from the file, not equal to -1. So we're going to say grade is equal to convert to int32 infile.readline. Again, remember we're dealing with text files. The data that's coming in is in text format, so we need to convert it to integer before we read it into the variable. We also need a total variable right here. Total is plus equal grade, increment count until we're finished. And then we can say average is equal to total divided by count, and then we can write out the average. Okay, so let's run the program. We might have a little error someplace. Let's go find it. Okay, so again, in the interest of not hiding my mistakes so that you can learn from them, we can't open these 2 files at the same time. First, let's stop the program. So what I need to do is very simple. I need to take this line, cut it from here, and add it in right here. Okay, let's try again. There we go. So we'll do some even grades, 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, and the average is 80. So clearly after we entered the data, which we did with this loop right here. We close the file, then we open the file, read the grades in this loop with using peak not equal to -1 to control not reading past the end of the file. Read a line which has one grade, convert it to integer, store it in grade, add it to the total, increment the count by 1, then when we're finished, close the file, compute the average, and display the average. Let's run it one more time. We'll do it with some non-even numbers. And that drug our average down. Let's bring it way up higher. So that's how you read from a file. One more time, let's talk about the steps. First step is to create a file object using text reader called with the StreamReader class's constructor. Then more than likely you're going to have a loop. So you're going to loop while the value of the text file object's peak method is not equal to -1. Remember, peak means there's more data to read and it returns -1 when there is no more data to read. Then you call the readLine method or read from the text file object and do whatever it is you want to do with the data and then close the file. So now we've reviewed how to write data to a file, how to read data from a file. Now in this next lesson, we're going to talk about how to append data to a file so that we don't erase the original data that was in the file.